That was a real good presentation you did for us at DDSO. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been telling me too. So that's why I wanted to, do another one today. We're going to focus on remediation today. And then I like to share some updates just from the meeting that I had with DDS yesterday, as well as share some information regarding in-person um, office hours. Okay, so John is on vacation today.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
that's exciting though, Cindy. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that the meeting with DDSO was well received. That's excellent.
Yeah, it was. It served its purpose.
Good.
And I
Good,
see
good.
a lot of the staff on today too. So it's gonna be a repeat.
Hey, that's okay. That's how we get it. That's how we get it embedded into memory, right?
For the interpreters, what does DDSO stand for?
Go right ahead, Sheila. Or Dennis, go right ahead.
I was trying to.
Right. The Developmental Disability Service Organization.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute myself and then I thought I put on my camera, but yeah, he's right.
Thank you. And like I said, folks, we'll get started about 11:03. We'll let people get joined on here.
Jordan, am I able to share my screen in a little bit
Yeah.
here?
Yes, you should be able to. Do you have the option on your screen?
I do. I do.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, you should be able to. We're just going to go over two little quick agenda items and then we're going to give you the floor, Miss Cindy. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, you bet. And I see as folks are joining on, I do want to introduce folks at this moment to one of our new resource developers, Christy Schaefer. She is on joining us today with Coffee with Community Services. So we're very excited to have her on our team. Our unit is all full.
Welcome.
Thank you. And since John Decker is on vacation today, myself and Olivia and Cindy Lee will be hosting you from Community Services. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. And I see we got Phil Perez, one of our new residential managers on, and we have Jason and Dee Dee from Community Services and Laura Gorham, one of our client services managers. Thank you guys all so much for joining us. Get started in just a moment. All right, so we got about 46 participants on. So good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. As I mentioned just a moment ago, John Decker's on vacation. We wanted to give you a few brief updates, and then we're going to have Cindy Lee, our HCBS specialist, go into some of the validation projects that are going on right now. So we're going to have Olivia give a brief update on the rates study.
Morning, everybody. Just kind of wanted to give you an update. So right now we have received the majority of rates from DDS. So you are going, you should have already received rate letters. If you didn't, please reach out to your community service specialist. We know there have been some address changes and things like that. So we're trying to pull those and get those to you as quickly as possible. We're still working on the 904 and the 113 rates. I will also let you know that if you had a rate added since last July, so over about a year, most of those were not included in the rate study rates that we received from DDS. So we have had to go back and request those rate increases. So it will still be retroed if you're eligible for an increase to April 1st, but you may not have received a rate letter, and we could possibly be waiting on DDS to give us that information. So hold tight if you've added any subcodes or special rates or things to your rate table as of last July of 2021. And then along with that, I want to let you know that we are working on with DDS on updating all the median rates. So these would be the rates that we could negotiate to for any new vendors. So for instance, if you come in, you submit a letter of interest and you want to open a new day program under 055, we would negotiate a rate with you. And so we're working on DDS to get those rates. So that's what we're working on at this moment. We're going to be holding some vendor forums. We're trying to group together vendors based on service codes so that we can kind of have a chat about the rates. If you have questions, do our best to kind of answer those from what we've learned from DDS. So stay tuned for those. We're getting those scheduled hopefully over the next couple of weeks. And then I think, Jordan, I think that was everything. Does anybody have any rate study questions that I can do my best to answer without John here? Nothing? All right.
All right. So next little update, we wanted to make sure everybody's aware we have a couple of vendor forums that will be coming, that are coming up in the next month. We have our parenting vendor forum, which is June 28th at 10 a.m. That is going to be remote via Avaya. If you wanted to attend and you don't have that link, they can reach out to Christine Hobb, correct, Olivia, to get that link. Do you mind dropping Christine Hobb's email in the chat just in case anybody needs that? We really want to give some time to Miss Cindy Lee, our HCBS specialist this morning. We have a few other updates if we have time, but we really wanted to give the floor to Miss Cindy Lee because we know that project is coming due. So Cindy, go ahead and let us know how things are going.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for being here today. Today, I would just like to go over the remediation process. So as you recall, I went over the validation process approximately 2 weeks ago. The PowerPoint, the forms, is now on our website. Upon completion of today's training on remediation, I will also put the information on our website for you to access. Oh no, I just lost everyone.
We can hear you, Cindy. I can see you and hear you. Did you lose us though?
Well, everyone kind of froze for a few seconds there. So
when you went to share screen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, try to bear with me. And if we continue to have this issue, then I will go ahead and just let Olivia share her screen. So let me know if you can see my shared screen now.
We
Awesome.
can.
Okay. Okay. I just like that little transition. So as you recall, I talked about the services that were eligible, I should say required to complete the either self-assessment or the virtual site assessment. And these are some of the service codes that were listed by DDS as being required to complete either the self-assessment or the virtual site assessment. So, and many of you also have recalled that you completed the self-assessment between January and August of 2020. DDS did make an extension during that year to extend the self-assessments through August. So if you completed the assessment, you should have, if you don't have the report, reach out to me and I can send that over to you. If your program was vendored after August, you would not be a part of the group that were required to complete the assessment. So DDS is going to provide us with guidance for the newly vendor programs at a later time. Um, you would hear from me whether or not you are required to, because I now have access to the spreadsheet that DDS had provided to us from SharePoint. So if you received an email, though, either in June or actually both were sent in June, you would be required to either complete the validation or the remediation for one or more of your programs. Okay, so why remediation now? Okay, if you fall into one of the following categories, then you are required to go through the remediation process. The first is if you reported not to meet one or more of the federal requirements on the self-survey. You completed the virtual site assessment, but you did not complete the follow-up with PCG. The third is if PCG met with you and they determined that you partially met or did not meet one or more of the requirements. The fourth is if you did not fully complete the self-assessment, then you are required to complete the remediation. And the reason that, DDS wants us to focus on the remediation is because we want to make sure that you are making changes, modifications to either the program design or the service delivery to come into compliance by March 17th of 2023. So remediation plans are due to the regional center by July 22nd. Okay. So if you are a service provider for residential services, you are required to complete the remediation for all of the federal requirements on the form. Now, you may need, some questions may need you to validate, while others you may need to remediate. So depending on, the question, you may have to either submit to confirm or submit to validate, to remediate. Non-residential providers, though, day programs, other day services are not required to complete federal requirement number 10. However, DDS do want us to make sure that the programs, at any setting is accessible to everyone participating in the program. As you recall, or you may not recall, some of the responses that were made on the self-assessment may not be the current response that you have for your program right now, and that's okay. Now is the time for you to let DDS know that perhaps at the time that you completed the self-assessment, the information was limited. Things have changed now to where, maybe you're offering more services. I know a lot of the service providers got dinged for community access during the pandemic. Things have changed quite a bit now. A lot of places have opened up, and so your response to that question may be different. And that's okay. We just need to make sure that you provide the supporting documentation to show DDS that now you are in compliance. So as I mentioned about 2 weeks ago, that regional centers are required to review all of the remediation plans, whereas the validation plans, 75% of those plans are going to be reviewed by PCG, and they're going to reach out to you directly if they need to follow up with you. Any modifications that you need to make to the program design, just keep in mind that you can note that on the template. However, you still need to work on the change with your specialist to make sure that the information gets updated or reflected in your program design. And modifications do not need to be completed by July 22nd of 2022. You just need to submit the template as well as a plan of how you're going to do it by July 22nd. And another thing to keep in mind is that, these remediation plans are ongoing. We're not going to expect you to have everything completed by the due date. You have until March 17th of 2023 to come into compliance. Okay, so the labeling process for remediation is going to be similar as for the validation. So you want to make sure that you know the vendor number of your care home or your program, as well as labeling all of the supporting documentation that you're going to attach to the template. What would make it super duper helpful for us is if you complete a template and supporting documentation separately for each vendor number, as well as sending it in separately as well. The reason for that is because I have to upload everything onto SharePoint. So it takes a lot of time for me to, have to sift through all of, the email to separate out documents for different programs. And then, so for the remediation, there is a box just like the validation for you to provide a brief summary of what it is that you are submitting. However, DDS also wants you to submit the actual documentation if you have it. Okay, so this is how the remediation plan is going to look for a residential provider. So the first part is just basic general information. Make sure that you put the correct vendor number on there. A lot of people are putting down like their license number or, a number that belongs, business number. We need the vendor number that you have for the regional center. If you don't know the service code, you can go ahead and leave that blank and we can fill that in for you. Okay. On the bottom, after the general information on the template, are some resources that DDS had included for you to also look at. And you can also find resources on our website as well. Okay. So for the remediation plan, each federal requirement is going to have two different options for you to check. The first is if you are saying that the setting meets the requirement. So this is why I said you may need to do both validation and remediation. So if you're checking the first one that you met the requirement, then you would need to provide documentation to validate that. But if you check that you did not meet the requirement, then you need to submit a plan. So here's the box right here that I was talking about that you can provide a brief summary, or you can, put CFR 1 on the supporting documentation for us to look at. Okay. As far as the type of documents that you can submit, DDS had listed on the validation plan some examples of documents that you can submit to either validate or remediate your responses. But, we don't need a full-blown program design, just a page or two, just enough information to help us determine whether or not you have met the federal requirement. And if you are doing the validation in the context of the you do not need to complete the validation plan template. You can do all of that in the remediation plan. Okay, and this is the email address to submit the plans to. So I had set up automatic response to let you know that your plans have been submitted successfully. Now, if you're sending multiple emails at a time, you may only get one response saying that, your plans have been submitted.
Looks like we lost your audio connection, Cindy. Oh. Cindy, we lost you for just a second. Can you hear us?
Yes. Oh, okay. So what did you hear last?
I would just start over on this slide.
Okay. All right. So plans need
Sorry, folks, just 1 second. Sorry, Cindy Lee, we lost you again with that
I
connection.
know, I'm so sorry. Okay, so again, third time's a charm. Um, Plans need to be submitted to the HCBS inbox. You may get an automatic response letting you know that your plans were received successfully. If you are sending multiple emails, one right after another, you may only get one automatic response, okay? So, but just know that all of the emails probably have gone through, and once I have a chance to review those and upload all the documents, then I can send you a response to let you know that it's been uploaded successfully. Okay, so I included some frequently asked questions. I updated some information on these frequently asked questions, so I'm not going to go over every single one of them for sake of time, but again, you can find the PowerPoint presentation after this on our website. Okay, and these are some additional resources to help you look up information regarding person-centered thinking, about plans, and anything HCBS related. Okay, so as I mentioned in my last email to you all that I was going to start offering in-person office hours. So that's going to start next week. You are more than welcome to schedule one-on-one time with me. It's going to be in 30 minutes increment. I'm going to be at the Harvard office on the first floor, the Sierra room, on Tuesday and Wednesday of every week from 9 to 12. I think there may be a Tuesday in July that I'm not able to reserve that room, but just send me an email and let me know which Tuesday or Wednesday you like to come in, and I can make that work. And if you're not able to come in, we can always schedule a Zoom or a Via as our schedule permits. Okay. And then, of course, you have Coffee with CSS here that you can log on every single Friday. Because I'm off every other Friday, if you have any urgent matters that need to be responded to right away, just shoot me an email before Coffee with CSS because I work up until Thursday of that week.
Sorry, Cindy, we lost you there right at the end again. But hopefully she'll be able to pop back on so we can address some questions. I know we have a couple of questions in the chat, and I'm very thankful that Cindy Lee has made herself available for our vendors. I think that'll be very helpful for folks. And Olivia, I'm not sure if Miss Cindy Lee, are you with us? We lost you again for a second.
I did.
Okay.
I'm still here. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
excellent. No, it's okay. We're just saying that's great that you're offering these sessions for vendors. I think that's going to be super helpful. We do have 2 questions in the chat, Miss Cindy, if you want to take a peek at those, and then we can address those, and we can also then open it up to any questions that folks might have.
Okay, so for the remediation, we would only complete it for the requirements that we marked we are not fully compliant with, correct? Okay, that is a very good question. Now, that is going to depend on whether or not you completed the self-assessment or you completed the virtual site assessment. So if your program went through the virtual site assessment process, then PCG had already validated your met responses. So all you need to do now is just respond to the unmet or the not met areas. But if you completed the self-assessment, then yes, you would need to do both. Okay, and then the next question is, can we decide to submit a new program addendum to specifically address HCBS compliance if we don't have something we think quite works already? Yes. Other regional centers have started using some of the program design template changes. I can share that with everyone. after today's meeting. But just keep in mind that that template, the program design HCBS template change itself is not enough for DDS to validate or, your responses. So maybe just use that as a note for you to know which part of the program design you need to update. So I can send out the templates. I have them for both residential and non-residential. Go ahead,
Great.
Andrea.
Okay, sorry, hi, Cindy. You answered my question, but I just want to make sure that I am understanding the answer of that. So we have 4 vendorizations that were that we did a self-assessments for. One was reviewed by PCG, but I never received the support, but I'll send you, or the report, but I'll send you an email about that. And I believe I might have said we didn't fully meet an area because we didn't necessarily maybe have all of the IPPs. So would I have to do remediation just for that section? Or do I do remediation and then I do the validation for everything else? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you completed the VSA, and if there were any federal requirements that were either partially met or not met, then you would only need to respond to those.
Okay, for
But
the
if you
virtual.
completed this, right, the virtual, if you completed the self-assessment and you reported that you've met some areas and some other areas you haven't met, then you need to do both. You need to provide documentation to validate your response that you met the area, and you also need to submit a plan to remediate. But you only need to do that on one form, the remediation form. So
Okay, I've been doing the other one. That's
yes. So remember I talked about in the beginning, I talked about the 2 different options for you to check.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to check either the first or the second option for all of the federal requirements.
Okay.
And
just
you know
submit
what,
the
maybe right. So, and your response might be different now than when you first reported, 2 years ago.
And that's
So,
due July and not June 30th.
yes,
Okay.
yes. All the validation plans that are due by June 30th are those who self-reported that they met all of the requirements.
But I need to go check myself on that though, I think. So thank you.
And Cindy, we
Okay.
have 2 more questions from Amy Jones in the chat.
Okay. So what if we do not know what areas we have met or unmet? I don't think we have received responses on this. Would you back feed? Okay, yes. So what I can do is go ahead and give me a call. And I can go over, I can look up your information and I can tell you exactly which federal requirement you met and which area you did not meet. And that's why having, the one-to-one in-person time is important, because you can always come into the office and then I can do that with you as you're there. Or you can, give me a call as well. And then on June 30th are the validation plans that are due. Okay. And remember, I said validation plans are required for providers who have reported to have met all areas. And if you have received the virtual site assessment from PCG and you met all areas, then that means you're compliant. You do not need to do anything else. So I hope that answered your questions, Amy, but if not, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask for any clarification. Okay, so if we do not report meeting all the areas, then we do not turn in anything on the 30th. No, then you would be under remediation status. So the status is going to be the important one. And if you want to know what your status is, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to your specialist. And because they now have access to the SharePoint and they can give you the same information that I would give you. Okay.
And it looks like we just had one more pop up in regards to the one-to-one time you would call Miss Cindy Lee. And Cindy, I know that your phone number and your email were on the PowerPoint, but do you want to drop them in the chat for us just so folks can have that in the chat?
Yes, I will go
Excellent.
ahead and do that now. And then, so you can also text me too. You don't
Excellent.
just have to call me, but you can also text me as well. And sometimes, I'm on the phone, um, and I may have to send you to voicemail. But if you send me a text, I can respond much faster.
And then folks, do we have any other questions regarding this, or do we have any providers that kind of want to share their experiences or how things are going with them through this process?
I wonder if DDSO would like to share their experience.
Yes, I'm Sheila, the deputy director, and I think the personal attention that we had with Cindy really helped relieve the stress. She was so thorough. We got to ask all the questions. It just felt really good. And afterwards, we all took a deep breath and we realized that, just take it step by step and, we'll be okay. But everyone is coming along with it. So I'm sure we'll have it turned in time. But I do appreciate your support and clarifying things. It really helped us to, feel more relaxed. So thanks again.
That's great. I'm glad. And I know I met with another provider yesterday, and she mentioned the same thing. I know that several people have mentioned to me that they are hiring consultants to help them with this process. Now, I can't stop you from doing that, but just know my services are free.
Right. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Sheila, so much for sharing. It's great to hear that was helpful and successful. That's exactly what we want to be to you guys. We want to be a great resource. So thank you, Cindy Lee, for making yourself available to folks.
Of course.
Any other sharing that on this topic right now? Anything else? All right, so we just have a couple more updates for you guys and kind of reminders. I'm going to take a moment to share my screen. It's going to give me an option here. All right. So just a friendly reminder, right? We have the DSP survey going on with Department of Developmental Services. This is so crucially important to our service system. And as a reminder, I'll drop this link into the chat so folks easily have it. But there's a full detailed description. If you are a vendor who did not receive a link from DDS in order to complete the survey, there's full instructions and an email address right here about how you can go about requesting that. They are providing an incentive of $8,000, right? Which is only open until June 30th. So, which is a great incentive, right? We want you guys to get that. We also want these filled out so that we can make sure our service providers are getting exactly what they should, right? We know how hard you guys are working out there. They also have a frequently asked questions, a Fox sheet. So that is also available. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment here. Hold on just one second. Got to figure out how to get back to my big view here. Just a second here. Having an issue with, okay, there, stop sharing. Perfect. Sorry, when we go to share and unshare, I lose you for a second. But I haven't heard when exactly the $8,000 payment will be made. Do we have vendors that have either received it or have heard of the date that payment will be received? No, so that's something that I'll kind of follow up on, and then next week at coffee we can let you guys know when that would actually be dispersed. Does anybody want to share any experience with the survey or how things are going, or they have any issues with it?
Hi, it's Andrea from Illinois. I think I had heard that it would probably the 8,000 would be dispersed after everyone had completed it because they have like an allotted amount of money, so it could be potentially more depending on how many people actually complete it. And we're working on it too. It takes a bit, but once you get it, it's there. And it's technically like kind of all the stuff you would have, in your payroll or HR sort of thing, but it's like at one point in time and one point in time. So just trying to be very cognizant of where you are, like the beginning of 2021 and the end of it. So kind of
Excellent.
working
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. It's super helpful to know, and that's great to hear about the funds. I will look into it a little bit more. One other thing we wanted to just remind folks about is that DDS is having a employment workshop on June 27th from 1 to 2:30. That is virtual. I am going to drop in the link right now for the DDS calendar. So if that's something that you would like to sign up for, then the information will be there. We also wanted to make sure that clients and families are aware that ARCA is having their social recreation webinar, right? And that is going to take place next Tuesday, June 28th from 2 to 2:30. I am also going to drop in the link for the registration for that so that any families or clients that would like to participate in that can get registered before Tuesday. That is there. And those are really all our updates for today. Was there any other community members that had anything they wanted to discuss? No. And John Decker's on a well-deserved vacation today. He's going to be coming back. He'll be here next Friday. So if that's it, if there's not any additional questions, we thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys all have a very nice weekend and stay cool in that hot heat. So thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
And I will stay on for a little bit longer if anyone
great.
wants to just hang on and ask your questions in case you didn't feel comfortable.
No, we'll hold on the line here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. That's great.
Mhm.
And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to just drop a couple of links in the chat in case people need that for the DDS survey.
Go ahead, Nancy. Nancy, I'm not sure if you could hear me, but I think you had your hand raised. Okay, maybe that's my mistake.
There, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. We spoke this morning and I'm still a little bit confused because when the survey that you emailed me, when that was filled out, my site was closed and I was laid off. So I've never completed that to begin with, so I don't have anything that tells me what I met and what I needed to remediate.
Okay, so the report that I sent over to you this morning was the virtual site assessment. So I believe it's either on page 3 or 4. It should list all of the federal requirements that PCG assessed you on, and it should say met, partially met, or not met.
It does, but this is for the El Dorado Hills site, and I am at the Placerville site. I have
Okay, I believe the Placerville site, you completed the self-assessment, or someone completed the self-assessment and reported that all areas were met. So then that would require just a validation.
Okay, can you email me what you received from Placerville?
Yeah, I sent that to your coworker yesterday, but I can send that over to you as well.
Oh, thank
after
you
I
so
get
much.
off. Of course. I see people are still on.
Feel free to pose any questions, unmute yourself and pose any questions you might have. It's great when people can share their examples because we all learn as a group from everybody else's situations. So we'll give folks about 5 more minutes. If anybody has any questions, that's great. And if not, we'll sign off in about 5 minutes if we don't hear from anyone.
Okay.
Scanning through, I don't see any hand raises or anything like that, or dropping participants. So I think that might be all the questions we have. We might not give them up. We might not wait a full 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's great, Cindy. Thank you so much for presenting this information today. And I think that it's going to be a relief for providers to know that they can have those one-to-ones with you. That's going to be super helpful.
Yeah, I just feel bad for the ones that had already paid money to for someone else to do this for them. But hey, you know what?
We're all just getting it
That's
done, huh? Uh-huh.
Yes, as long as
Yeah.
they're getting it done. And I know another regional center, they hired like a full temp agency to
Oh,
do this for
wow.
their regional center.
Oh, wow. Well, we're
Hmm.
very fortunate to have our specialist here.
Yes, a lot of work, but you know what? It
Mhm.
is worth it.
Excellent. Love that. Okay, folks, well, we're going to bid you a fond farewell. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much again, Cindy.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good weekend.